American Dream. It's this Saturday at 9 a.m. One of our guests on the show is a guy named Eric Kabar with United Realty Group. Eric is a leader in the real estate space. He's here in San Diego, but he runs a firm that has 100 realtors underneath him looking to him for advice. He's very well connected. He's spread across California. The guy is very, very intelligent when it comes to real estate. In just a minute, I'm going to have him in studio to talk about what's really happening in the housing market. If you care about real estate, you want to know what's happening, stick around. It's going to be great information with Eric Cabarro with United Realty Group right here on the Craig Swain Show in just a moment.
Sewing.
All right, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in the show. Without further ado, a good friend of mine, Eric Cabarro, is here. Now, Eric is with the United Realty Group, has about 100 agents underneath him, spread across California. This guy is he is the top of the food chain when it comes to real estate. He's right here in San Diego. Of course, you're all over California. You're up north quite a bit as well.
Yep.
It's good to have you in here because so many people have opinions on the market. We had Case Shiller today, a lot of reports happening, and if there's anyone who has their finger on the pulse of the market, it's you. First of all, you're involved in it every single day, but you also have channels of information, 100 channels of information coming to you at all times. So thanks for joining us here.
Thank you. It's an ever-evolving pulse, but we definitely try.
Never stop. So you got a lot you're going to talk about with due diligence and some of the things that I think have really developed your reputation from real estate contracts, best practices, everything that's important to help people know what they need to know about real estate. One of the things that we really pride ourselves on when it comes to real estate information is being a full wheel, the full circle on all the things you could possibly need. Philippe Heller with SD Inspections helps us on that front. All right, Eric, so you know that inspections are obviously a part of the process. There's a lot of things that happen in a real estate transaction. I mean, obviously you have the paperwork, you have the contract itself, earnest deposit, then you start getting escrow and title, mortgage. The mortgage process is a mile long, to get these things done.
Yep.
So you're going to come in here today and talk about really the best practices from the things that you do, your agents do, things that consumers need to know, ways that you actually protect all these agents that are working with you.
Right.
So when we start with that, I want to start broad and work our way towards that.
Sure.
Case Shiller today.
Yes.
All right, so we saw some good news in housing. Let's start there with good news. So, that was yesterday. Case Shiller was up 12.2%. What did it show for San Diego? Wasn't it like
about 19.3?
Okay, about 19.
About 19.3.
Yeah,
I say about because these are all average numbers. You look one place and another, you'll get a little bit of a discrepancy. But 19.3.
Now, someone like you who's spread across California with all these agents that rely on you for this type of information, we rely on you on this radio show for this information. I bet you're seeing where San Diego's 19.3. I bet you're seeing all kinds of differences of appreciation in different markets. How are we doing here? I mean, are we doing okay here? What are we seeing up in other parts of the marketplace that you're seeing?
Well, the Case-Shiller Index, obviously, it's an index that measures 20 cities, some of them are outside of California. So I try to kind of keep a pulse on all those as well. But overall, the 20 cities that Case-Shiller measures were up. They rose in price. But we're seeing a little bit of an emergence.
That's where that 12.1 number came. I tend to – I actually speak a little bit too much nationally at times.
Right.
Who gives a rip about Chicago or St. Louis or Kansas City? Let's focus here on San Diego. So 19.3%.
Right.
Any other areas in California?
San Jose, believe it or not, is one of the not very frequently mentioned areas. It's a pretty big hotspot in California. Seeing a little bit more inventory there. Things are picking up. So that's a pretty good place right now. Try to concentrate as much as possible on San Diego, but one of the things I picked up on from the Case-Shiller was the fact that, and this isn't too bad of news, but basically even though all of the 20 cities measured by the index rose in price, only 6 of them rose more than the previous month, whereas in May, 10 of them rose more than the previous month. So we're seeing just a little bit of a slowdown in the appreciation, even though things are still on an upward trend.
Well, speaking of appreciation, the one piece of advice I really want to give to our listeners is that, we're seeing, I got this last night. We got an email through craigsewing.com. Don't forget, if you ever have real estate questions, you need advice, CRAIGSEWING, craigsewing.com. We're seeing a lot of people now, Eric, that were underwater, challenges from 2007 to 2012, and now we're getting back to even.
Some of these people even have equity.
So they're not having a short sale. We're seeing people do the move up buyer thing, renting their house. I love seeing that. It is so good to see that people who've fought, hand and tooth the entire. What is it, nail and tooth? What's the expression? Fought tooth and nail.
Tooth and nail. There you
go. when you say it wrong, you can say it 1,000 times. One time you say it wrong, you totally forget. Kind of like when you're listening to a song, trying to think of a different song. So fought tooth and nail to survive the housing market. Now here we are. They're seeing their property values go up. Great to see. I love people being able to be helped in that situation. You offer a free property evaluation. So if anyone wants to know what their home is worth, you can help them. We just need a little bit of information about bedroom, bathroom, whatever it may be. If they simply text the word value, you're going to give them that. Now, I want to remind people that an appraisal costs $500.
Right.
So you're going to give them a free property valuation, not an appraisal, but a property valuation so they can understand where we are value-wise. If you text the word value to 619-846-9333, 846-9333, text word value, whether you have equity or not, it's good to know what your house is actually worth, not what you think it's worth or what your tax assessment states. Text the word value. Now, Eric, real estate contracts.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm hearing a lot about offers on properties, right? So an offer from a buyer's agent to a seller's agent. I ask listing agents all the time. So, what do you need from a buyer's agent in a low inventory market to get an offer accepted? Of course, you hear the things like, well, got to be strong financing approval.
Right.
But I hear them say all the time, they say, at least write the offer properly. So many different agents don't even fill out the offer the right way, and so their offers automatically get dismissed. Now, you help your team obviously do this right. You're an educator in the marketplace. Can you speak to that? And then also what happens next? The offer gets accepted. You go into contract. What do people need? What do our listeners need to know about those two things? The offer itself and then going into contract.
Sure. Well, as far as the offer goes, obviously you need the basics. You need a strong pre-approval letter. I know you speak about this frequently. Really, really should come from a direct lender as opposed to a broker. Brokers are great. They can shop around loans for you, but they're kind of a middleman. They're not the funding source. So you need to talk to a guy like you.
Not buying a house anymore. You can't do the broker thing.
You can't do the broker thing. You can't. So that's one. That's a basic. You need a nice, strong offer. At the end of the day, you can do whatever you want, but if your offer isn't nice and strong, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So the basics have to be there.
Like the value of the offer, how much you're willing to pay, contingencies, things like that.
There's price and then there's terms. So you have the price has to be where it needs to be, but you also want to structure the terms of the contract in a way that's attractive to the sellers, but at the same time leveraging it for the buyer if you're representing the buyer. So, things like asking for a lot of repairs or asking for...
Can I give you an example?
Please.
Okay, so we had a listener who went to craigsewing.com 8 months ago.
Yep.
Can't get his offers accepted.
Yep.
Great guy. And he's always emailing me and communicating, and he told me this recent offer he made where he's trying to get the offer accepted, a lot of competition, and he's asking for $7,000 to I don't know what he wanted to do, get rid of popcorn ceiling or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, how many offers have you made?
Yeah.
He's like, 10, 15. I go, you made 10, 15 offers, I haven't got anything accepted.
Wait till he gets to 50.
Well, how many do you have to get? I was like, and I emailed him back. I said, why are you asking for $7,000?
Right.
And his response was, well, I'd like just to have a little bit more money when I buy the house. And I just was like, if you would ignore $7,000, you'd realize you could have already locked into 3.5% and saved $100,000 versus $7,000.
Yep.
So I think that's what you mean, though. It's asking for those things. Right now, we're not in that market to do that.
That's exactly right. Not to say that asking for some of these things could never work. It's just not the right time to ask for these things right now. The market will shift, eventually become a buyer's market again, and things like this will be the norm. Sellers will be trying to appease buyers to sell their home. Right now, there's a little bit of a different dynamic.
Right, and you're absolutely right. I don't want to say it never makes sense. And, of course,
Sure.
if inventory opens up, it can shift, and then it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of different things. I think the best advice I can get to take from that point is this is why you have to work with a trusted professional. There's so many times that people use their neighbor or their friend or their peer at work or whatever it may be.
Right.
It's easy to get your real estate license. It's very difficult to be great at the job.
That's true.
What Eric does and all of his agents do at United Realty Group, they truly are outstanding. And you can trust them with the advice. Really, you can get back to what you do. If you're a nurse, a doctor, an attorney, maybe you're a single mother, whatever it is, be good at that. When it comes to the real estate decision, just work with someone you can trust, and they'll take care of it for you. Now, you go from the offer, Eric, into contract.
Sure.
What happens now that we're in contract? And I'll be honest with you, this show's been in existence for several years.
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say right here in front of you, we've never really talked about the real estate contract.
We're going to dive into it.
No, I mean, we really haven't. Everything we just talked about, we've touched here, and we talk about reports and mortgage and rates and inventory and offers. Mm-hmm. We've never really actually talked about the importance of a contract in real estate. So please.
And it's so important because, you think some of this stuff is boilerplate, just a bunch of paperwork. You just want to buy a house, right? But they're so important. Literally something as simple as a box being checked or not being checked on a contract can have significant consequences for the buyer or the seller.
Well, the word in itself, contract, it's a scary word. And when you realize that to secure that contract, you had to put some skin in the game. You had to put an earnest deposit. So it's a big deal.
Yep.
It's a big deal to get it right.
Here's one thing I'm seeing a lot right now. There's a lot of multiple offers going on, right? Now, there's a box on the counteroffer, and it's if the seller checks it, that means it's a multiple counteroffer. That means that if the buyer signs and accepts the counteroffer, it then has to go back to the seller for their signature.
Okay.
Or else it's not a contract. Now, a lot of the times I'm seeing that not happening. They go ahead and open escrow, put their deposit in. I'm like, guys, this is not an accepted offer yet. So
wait a second. Okay. Break that down again.
Okay. So let me try to make it as easy to understand as possible. So on the counteroffer.
So you make an offer.
A buyer makes an offer
Here's
to
what
a
we
seller.
want, seller. Seller says, I will see your 10 and raise you 20.
Exactly.
So they're coming back with a counter.
Seller makes buyer a counteroffer. Let's just say the buyer decides to go ahead and agree to the counteroffer. They accept it. So the buyer goes ahead and signs it. Now, if the multiple counteroffer box on that counteroffer was not checked by the seller,
right?
Once the buyer signs it, it's a binding contract. If the multiple counteroffer box is checked by the seller before they present the counteroffer to the buyer, then the buyer signs it. It needs to go back to the seller for a second signature before it's actually considered a binding contract.
And
so they're forgetting about that second signature. What's that?
So what does that mean? I mean, if I'm listening here and it's interesting and I'm trying to get it, what at the end of the day, what does this really mean to me as a home buyer or a home seller here in San Diego, California?
Well, put it to you this way. I mean, the last place that you want to end up is in court to resolve some of this stuff, right? You don't want to end up in arbitration, mediation. When a lot of these best practices are really preventative measures to prevent you from ending up in places like that. Now, let's just say, for example, keeping with this example here, you don't technically have an accepted offer because of what we're discussing here. But yet and still, the parties move forward. They open escrow. They start doing the deal. Something like that ends up in court. More likely than not, the judge is going to find that the intent of the parties was to do the deal. He's going to consider it a valid contract. But do you really want to end up in court to have to figure that out? I'll give you an example, Craig. Right now, we're in an appreciating market. A seller accepts my offer today at $200,000. A week and a half into the deal, they get another offer for $230,000, hypothetically.
Okay.
Well, they go back and they start looking in the contract and trying to find a way to get out of it. And they say, wait a minute, this wasn't an accepted contract. I want out. Now, again, if it ends up in court, chances are the buyer will prevail. The intent is there for the parties to move forward. But do you want to go to court or do you want to get it right the first time?
Nobody likes court. But if you go to court, you need Greg Garrison, Teeple Hall.
That's right.
He's our legal analyst for the show. He's been coming in here talking about Filner, and the guy, I'm so over the Filner story. But then I have Greg in here, and he's like, well, here's what's happening legal, and here's who's getting sued, and here's where the money's coming from. And I'm like, it gets me all fired up.
Right.
If you ever need an attorney, he's a good guy. All right, so real estate contracts, the importance of that. I want to stay on the topic of just due diligence, so people understand and learn something here today. We have Ryan Lipsey come on the show from time to time. Now he's a title insurance guy with Lawyers Title.
Very important part of the process.
It is important, but I compare him to an offensive tackle in football. It's incredibly important, but nobody knows the name of the offensive tackle, even the guys in the Pro Bowl.
Right.
But if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't open up holes. Running back couldn't do what he does. Can you explain what people need to know about title, preliminary title reports, how it affects the deal?
I'd love to. I actually have a personal story on this too. So give a little bit of a preface. A preliminary title report, in short, is a report prepared by a title company, and it basically gives you all of the information about a particular property as far as what could potentially be affecting title. So, for example, some of the common things that you're going to see on there is a mortgage. You have a mortgage on the property, that's going to show up on the preliminary title report. You have an HOA company for that property. You will see their CC&Rs recorded on the preliminary title report. Things like that. Now, what our best practices, what our agents are trained to do is whenever they take a listing, they immediately open title and escrow on the property. They order the preliminary title report. Usually takes about 3 to 5 days to get it.
Right.
And then they go over it with the seller in detail to ensure that there's nothing that the seller's not aware of on there, nothing that's going to prevent them consummating the sale. Well, what I notice happen is there's a lot of sellers out there in the marketplace who probably, based on the lack of advice from their listing agent, are not ordering those title reports at the time they take the listing. They're actually waiting until they have an accepted offer on the property to order the title report. Why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Well, it can put you in an 11th hour situation. Do we have time for a quick story?
Yeah. No, we got plenty of time. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. This is a property I'm in escrow on right now, actually up in Carlsbad. I'm representing the buyer.
So you're working with the buyer here.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm representing the buyer. This is a piece of vacant land in Carlsbad. The listing agent on this property did not order the preliminary title report ahead of time. I made an offer.
Now, if you're a listing agent and you're working with a seller, now in this case you're talking about land, but let's say a house.
Right.
When do you think it makes the most sense for a listing agent to get this title report going?
Immediately, as soon as they take the listing from the seller. As soon as the seller
not in contract yet, haven't accepted offers, but you have now sat down with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They like you. They want to use you. Now, I want to make sure we're speaking to the consumer here. If you are looking to sell your house, make sure that's something you request from your listing agent. Hey, we want to get the title going now. Make sure everything's clean.
And preferably you're working with a listing agent who's actually going to educate you on the importance of doing that in the first place.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I know.
But this, again, it's the same point I made earlier. This is why you connect to someone at the United Realty Group, someone underneath Eric. He can help you with all these things. There's 100 agents to do so. But you're telling your story here, so go on.
So basically we make an offer on the property. Offer gets accepted. Then and only then does the preliminary title report get ordered by the listing agent. And it takes about a week and a half to actually get it in this case. So here we are a week and a half into escrow. Lo and behold, this property does not have an HOA, but the preliminary title report says it does have an HOA. So we're scratching our heads a little bit.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. I have questions, but I don't want to interrupt you.
Hold your no. Basically, I call the listing agent. I ask her if she knows anything about it. Never heard of it before. Say, okay. Can you check with the seller, see if he's heard anything about it? She does so. No, seller has no idea about this HOA company. So I kind of take it upon myself at that.
So the HOA company, has a lien on the property?
Not necessarily a lien, but they've recorded their CC&Rs on the title of that property. So in essence, I, as the buyer's agent, I don't want to allow that transaction to close escrow with those CC&Rs recorded on there, because then my buyer, after closing, is either going to be technically bound by those CC&Rs, or they're going to have to go after close of escrow and resolve that issue on their own.
And I want to remind our audience, this is an actual story that you're in the middle of
currently
now. So this isn't some fluffed up story that you pulled out of nowhere. This is something you're actually seeing right now.
I even say this is actually on Pamplona Way up in Carlsbad. So by the way, if there's anyone up there that lives on or near Pamplona Way in Carlsbad, and you feel like you might be affected by this, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you on a one-on-one level and let you know if your property is one of there's about 70 properties that had these CC&Rs.
I think a lot of people should reach out to you anyway, just to learn more about what they have going on with their biggest investment. I see people put more energy into a vacation plan than their real estate plan.
Exactly.
It's like, look, this is your house. It's going up in value. Do you know where your house is worth if you sold it today? Do you know exactly what's going on with title? You can get some of these reports for free. Eric can give you a lot of stuff. So I'm glad you mentioned that. You can email Eric, eric@unitedrealtygroup.biz. But I also want to make sure anyone who's just joining us knows that earlier you offered a free property valuation. So if you own a house and you're curious, let's say you were underwater, well, do you have equity again? Are you close? If you do have equity, how much have you gained over the last year? We saw 19.3% appreciation here in San Diego. Well, I mean, that's a big number.
It is.
What does that mean to you? I mean, your market may have been 25%, it may have been 15%, but what is your home worth today, August 28th, 2013? Eric will help you skip paying $500 for an appraisal, and he'll do a property evaluation for you. If you text the word value to 619-846-9333, 619-846-9333. Rabbit trail, back to your home buyer, title, HOA. So what comes of this now?
So, we kind of got lucky, Craig, in this case because what I ended up having to do, because the listing agent was really kind of hands-off in this case, is I had to contact the HOA company and the title officer on this transaction and kind of get to the bottom of what happened here. Long story short, found out it was incorrectly recorded. The good news is the HOA company was very cooperative in this case. They're working with us, and we're in the process of actually removing those items from the title report. By the way, in the process of doing that, we're also going to clear it up for the 70 other properties in that neighborhood that were affected by it. Yeah, so a little bit of good news.
This is interesting. It's good content. What is there anything else that you run into? I mean, that one to me sounds kind of bizarre. The HOA thing, it's one you're in the middle of. Is there anything else that you've seen, you've run into in the past that's common that people need to be conscious of?
Well, I mean, not to offend anyone, but here's another one that we saw recently. So and here we have, in some cases, sellers are not aware what's on the preliminary title report. In some cases, maybe they're a little shy or they don't want to tell their agent what's on the preliminary title report. For example, pulled one up recently with several child support issues on there. Now, those types of things really need to be resolved before you close the deal.
So child support created a lien on the property?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct, yeah. So, I mean, think of your agent as your doctor, to all the sellers out there. You want to tell your doctor what's wrong with you, right, so they can best diagnose you and help you treat the problem. You don't want to withhold this stuff from them. And agents, you want to order the report so you can find out if that happens to be the case, so you can help your seller get past that. There's a lot, Craig. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all day. I'll kind of try to keep it to one main topic per show to not overwhelm everyone with information. But
no, it's good. It's good for a variety of reasons because it's easy to talk about real estate and the Case Shiller report showing a big appreciation. The pending home sales came in today. It's easy to talk about interest rates. We touch these on every show. But then you got to go in between lines. You got to go deeper in some of these micro elements of real estate. And so here you're bringing up issues about title, escrow, due diligence, contracts. Things that we bring in experts from time to time from different niche markets, and of course they want to talk about Case Shiller,
right,
pending home sales, interest rates versus you. You want to get into actually educating people. You do this for your agents at United Realty Group. They do it for the consumer. You do it for the consumer as well. And on this show, this is a unique and important message that I really want to resonate with people so they can ask questions if maybe they've run into anything as well.
Well, I love that aspect of the show, Craig, because I have conversations like this day in and day out with buyers on a one-on-one level. And why I love doing that, it's really awesome that we can kind of use your show as a platform to really get this message out to the mass. I think
using me now.
Using
we're being used around here, Kevin. Now that's the whole point. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's the rest of the media doesn't really care about educating. They care about sensationalism and 30-second sound bites and whatever gets people to turn their heads. But at the end of the day, earlier I was reading an article from Yahoo Finance, and it was like the top 5 numbers you need to know. It was like APR and interest rate and credit score, whatever.
Right.
But I'm reading this off, and we have Kevin here, and we're just going through it before you came on the show. And like 2 of the 5 were wrong. I mean, they're actually describing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
That's Yahoo Finance.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can't count on that, well what else can you not count on?
About 19.3 earlier in the segment because I look at a bunch of different reports, and it's funny because none of them are the same. So you got to kind of look at a bunch of different stuff and really extrapolate that information.
What I really think, Eric, is that we've come out of a marketplace that was broken. It came crumbling down from 2007, one house at a time, right? To build a marketplace that was built on bad advice, you're going to have to build it on good advice. You're going to have to build it one house at a time.
Yep.
And I think that because of the way the market turned and some of the things that happened, trust was really broken.
Yep.
And now not only has trust been broken, but you live in an information society where you can click a mouse, go on YouTube, Google, and it's making people more educated in the wrong way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so I really value what you guys do, your education process with all of your agents, how you really equip them to go to the marketplace, which helps, obviously, the consumer. And as a consumer advocate, that's what I do every day on the show. So our values align. And it's great having you on here. I wish I could get you on more. Is there anything imparting, anything that you want to bless the audience with here as far as just information about real estate, what they need to take from this?
Well, number one, definitely make sure that you have these types of conversations with your listing agent or your buyer's agent for that matter before you actually start working with them. Ask them what the steps that you should take are before listing your property that are going to put you in a best position, not cause any 11th hour situations. And at the end of the day, I make myself available. If anyone wants to chat, if anyone specifically here in Carlsbad about the earlier situation would like to talk more about that, home valuations, anything like that, drop me an email, Eric at United Realtors.
I mean, between your span of agents who rely on you for this information, I mean, you cover California. Right. You're typically in the North County area. You can answer questions for anyone. If you're just joining us, this is Eric Cabarro with United Realty Group. He's one of San Diego's real estate elite when it comes to the American Dream on Saturdays at 9 a.m. It's an honor having him be a part of that show and deliver all the information he does. And he also earlier mentioned that he would give a free property valuation if you reach out today just by simply sending a text. If you text the word value, when you want to learn the value of your property, couldn't be simpler. Text it to 619-846-9333. Text the word value, 619-846-9333. We'll connect you with Eric, get you some free information. Eric, great job. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in here.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Kevin, I got to get out of here now. Stretch out. Told him I worked out legs on Monday. We're still on.
Oh, okay.
We're not done yet. I was telling him I worked out legs on Monday, man. I can barely walk around here.
Yeah.
Go stretch it out a little bit. Great show today. Thanks, Eric Cabarro. Thanks, Kevin. We're going to be back again tomorrow at 6 p.m. on 1170 a.m. KCBQ. Have a good one.
Sewing.